Here's a monument to Charles H. Morrison, born in 1860, died April 5th. He was admitted to the St. Peter Asylum in April 1888. He'd been living in Becker County. He was single and a farmer, and was among the first group of patients admitted to the Fergus Falls State Hospital when he was transferred from St. Peter. He's listed in the 1900 and 1905 census as living at the Fergus Falls State Hospital, and he died here in 1909. And that's all we know about him. That's a typical story. Basic, maybe an occupation, where they were born, what they were admitted for, and that's it. Coming here as an immigrant was tough for a lot of people. You couldn't speak the language, unending work, toil. Some people just couldn't handle it.
These were the forgotten people. People were brought here and we didn't talk about it. Very few families acknowledged that they had ancestors here. Many of the people that were here were not insane. There were many, many reasons why people were brought here, and including things like epilepsy, or having seizures, or postpartum depression was a major one for women to be brought here. Just all kinds of things, solitude and fright, and those are all things that are listed in the records.
And then the other era that was really tough was the Depression. The Depression took a toll on people. That's when the population spiked at the state hospital, and it was the bad time because that was the time of low funding. There was no money, and World War II the same way. So they really struggled. But again, they did the best they could. They really did.
It's a building known by many names, has affected many lives, and its future is still uncertain. About $400,000 is still needed to save the Kirkbride, which is also known as the Fergus Falls Regional Treatment Center.
Look it up in the dictionary. Asylum means refuge or sanctuary. Important words, right? We get asked all the time on our tours, have you seen any ghosts? Are there any ghosts in the building? And we say no. And we haven't heard any really scary ghost stories or anything, but people have told us that they believe it's a spiritual building. And I believe that there are spirits in the building. And I mean, why wouldn't there be after well over 100 years? Anyway, on our tours, when we get that question, I say, I believe that there are spirits here, and they're probably saying, just go away, leave us alone, let us rest in peace. The corners represent the tile floor in the building. There are pictures interspersed. The colored squares around represent the colors in the fireplaces. And of course, the main building. That's a big cake.
21 boxes of cake mix.
You're kidding me. And was it good?
Of course.
It was
And
very good.
even the roof was edible.
I call it a God-given gift. I was interested in it, and I messed around with it. And a cousin knew how to play piano. She showed me where middle C was on the keyboard and where it was on the music. So I counted lines and spaces and drove my siblings nuts. But I taught myself how to play.
Wow. Would you play something for me?
What would you like to hear? The first song I learned how to play with two hands.
I would love to hear that.
It happens to be right here, and it's up there, and
Who's that a photo of?
That's my Lillian. That is, she was a resident up at the state. She was admitted by her husband, and she had postpartum depression. And the two children, they were two children that she had, they were given to different families, and she spent 23 years at the Kirkbride. And I had an aunt that worked there, and she, at that time, a person wasn't able to be released from the campus unless they had a family that would sponsor them. And so my aunt that worked there, she was able to get Lillian released into the care of our family. She lived with my grandma and grandpa. I think it was for about 13 years. And then from there she moved into Fergus, and I was kind of her guardian, caretaker, family friend.
How old were you?
When she came to live with my grandparents, I was 8. So, yeah. So she was a part of my life for 48 years. She just died a couple years ago at the age of 98.
Did she ever get to see her kids again? Do you know?
One of them, yes. I did stay in contact with one of them. One of her daughters did come back to town, and I made arrangements for her to see her. And it was a somewhat of a strained meeting, I guess.
Was she upset that her mother was in the hospital?
She actually didn't, when she was little, she didn't know where her mother even went. And you can imagine, I think she was probably 8 years old, and her new baby daughter, or sister, all of a sudden they were split up and given to different families. And actually her husband remarried within the year. And
so do you feel like that by saving the building, you're holding on to her memory too?
Not only hers, but everyone that passed through there. I couldn't ever understand the thoughts that you would tear a place like this down. I mean, obviously this is our community's gem. It's our Monet, and you know, you would never destroy a Monet if you had it hanging on your wall. But it's actually because of her that I think that I had such a passion for saving the Kirkbride.
I would say most of the guys that were here were displaced from an agricultural background, you know. You know, there was hard times in them days, you know. It's a whole different line of thought. A lot of these patients, I think, I've had a little bit of this trait myself. I think they could communicate better with the livestock than they could with a person, you know. Now right in here, this is where the hog barn's set. And that place, I mean, the sows would lay in there, and the guys would stand there and scratch their back, and I mean, they were just spotless. The whole barn was just spotless, you know. I mean, these horses, you could come up here in the winter, and the patients or the people that lived here, I don't know what you're supposed to call them, but anyway, the horses just shined. You know, I mean, they were brushing them and currying them, and you know, and their feet were always nice. I remember it like it was yesterday, you know.
Are these sort of few scattered headstones for people from the hospital who could just afford it?
Families have put them up. The story is that they actually had grave marks out here, but then they melted them down for the metal.
Oh, so they were made of iron and maybe had their names or numbers on them or something?
Yep. And so they decided to pull them out and melt them down for the metal and reuse it.
The hospital did?
Yep. But as you can see, the divots and the holes everywhere.
Yeah.
There's one grave over here that I'm going to show you that's actually, I mean, it's completely sunken in. And supposedly there's been bones there. And I really hope people haven't taken them, but...
Oh, like you can... Like it's sunk so much that the person's body sort of came up?
They said that there was some exposure. But then again, it's stories that I hear from people.
I should have brought my witching.
Your what?
Well, the guy that had been working on the poor farm cemetery, he witches, or what's the other word?
Dowsing.
Divining.
Yeah.
Divining for graves. You walk over a body, and well, it's actually just 2 metal clothes hangers. And you just hold them very loosely in your hand, and you walk over a grave. They'll cross in like this. When he gets past the body, we'll go back to parallel straight ahead. The
Sounds
water.
like voodoo, doesn't it?
No, he's doing that with the Poor Farm Cemetery too.
Doing what?
Using his divining rods, witching to find the spots. And, and as a historian, I'm skeptical, but boy, it sure seems to work. I'm always thinking I would like to verify that through the use of ground penetrating radar or something, but it's hard for me to explain, but I've had many people just swear by using their metal rods to determine not just water, but also where bodies are and the sex of the body.
I'm not a physics major, but when you do a body, it has to do with the bone marrow. Now we'll see how tall this guy is. That's his body right there.
Well,
how do you think your time working at the state hospital has influenced the work that you make now?
You're looking at it. Because I found out that there's no rules. Normal. There's no such thing as normal. There's no such thing as boundaries in the thought world.
How many years did you work there?
Almost 30.
Wow.
29.4. Some of the people that I worked with were made up of different pieces, kind of staff as well. There were 2 different people, 3 different people. Sometimes, who are you? You were nice the other day, and then all of a sudden, boom. But some of the clients, I thought they were reincarnated spirit, highly advanced spirits for us to take care of, for our training. A lot of people saw themselves as their job, and there were a lot of rules and regulations and stuff. And I wasn't all that good at it, but I would have fun with the patients.
They would stay in their office, and you would
stay in their office.
Go out and actually hang out with people.
I would take them outside, and I would get blamed for trying to get out of chores or something.
Oh, really?
But then I had one of the supervisors, Kirk, you're the only one around here that actually are friends with these people. They had fear, they had love, they were more accepting than any of the staff were of anything. And they had desires and stuff, but all of it couldn't be expressed in our way.
Right, in a normal
sense.
Right.
So.
And then there was Wally.
Then there was Wally.
And this is Wally. And he was a pipe smoker.
He would go through a pipe every 2 weeks where there would be a hole burnt into it. He would just constantly smoke pipe. He'd have one extra with him in case it burned out.
Oh, and that's what that is. That's in
That's
his
what
pocket.
it is.
Oh, that's.
I was so proud of him because he says, I'd never drawn a face before. I can't do that. I said, look, all I did was start the chin.
Really?
All I did, this is your chin. Oh, I see. And then I said, I'll let you take care of it. Put smoke in it with your pipe. That's all I said. Oh, he was a cat collector. They weren't allowed in, but he had a furl skid row cardboard box cat community with doors, windows, water, cat food, and
that he had built.
He had built it, but the thing is he'd be sitting and all of a sudden a cat would walk out of the woods. Oh, hi there, honey. He had an affinity for him, and it was just amazing to see how he could do that. He was very high level. He loved to work. He loved to help people. I remember one time he was mowing one of the staff's lawn. He mowed the garden down. But it was so amazing. He was one of my best friends. He was a friend as well. And I miss him. He died in '98, I think. And it gave me freedom to actually develop this.
While the building was tucked away and easy to miss if you weren't looking for it, the impact on everyday life in the community, even today as it sits empty, cannot be ignored. Former hospital workers still gather annually to remember their lives in this self-sustaining community, which had its own auto shop, beauty salon, underground tunnels, and parades. One even remembers a regular saying of one of her patients, "I'm going to kill myself, but first I'm going to dance." This patient would dance his heart out and drench his shirts in sweat, possibly the most important therapy he needed to get through each week.
Sowing in the morning, sowing seeds of kindness, sowing in the noontide and the dewy eve, waiting for the harvest and the time of reaping. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. Sowing in the sunshine, sowing in the shadows, fearing neither clouds nor winter's chilly breeze. By and by the harvest and the labor ended, we shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We we shall come rejoicing, bringing in this year